Welcome to From the Ashes, the Dungeon Crawler Network podcast all about Ashes of Creation by Intrepid Studios. Bear witness to the rebirth of the MMORPG genre from the ashes of an industry that has left the gamers behind. I am your host, Aggelos, founder of the Dungeon Crawler Network, and I am joined once again by my awesome co-host down below, coming back to wrap up our PAX recap. First off, we got Isarii, the Errant Penman and moderator over at AshenFoundry.com. Got tongue-tied there for a second.
It's okay. At least you don't call it Ashes Foundry. We seem to get that a lot.
Ashes Foundry?
Yeah, it's an adjective, damn it!
Well, you know, it's actually really funny. A little side story before I really continue introducing hosts. I specifically remember the next host down there, Atropos, the founder of Ashen Foundry, started sending me a bunch of messages at the beginning going, does anyone know what the world name is?
Indeed.
How are you, Atropos?
Yeah, we might have been Vera Foundry, but even if we'd known, I think maybe we did okay.
We tried really hard to get that from Steven, but after he announced it, I immediately looked at, or actually I still had the mic at that point. Once I got back to my seat, I immediately looked over at Travis and I was like, it's okay, Vera Foundry would kind of suck. It sounds like some sort of online e-payment solution, or you know what I mean? I don't like it.
It actually does. Now that you say it, I'm like, huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I mean, hey.
But anyways, Ashen Foundry, awesome. Community site. Please visit. Please join. We'd love to have you.
It's an amazing forum site. I mean,
thank you, sir. Thank you.
It's
better than Reddit.
Yes,
it is better than Reddit. It really is. But I thought you were gonna say the official forums because it is that too.
Oh man, you guys.
No, I mean, like
the feels.
From an engineer side of things, I'm jealous. Like I'm working on guild forums, and I'm just like,
you're jealous.
I am a jealous.
Both podcasts got to make my fun.
Just gotta. Yeah. I gotta find some like dark stuff on Atropos and blackmail him into just doing my site. So I need to get blackmail. Anyway, I'm just kidding. All right, joining us once again, one of the founders of Vengeance, Sinbad himself. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you for having me back. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. We're glad to have you. And once again, the guild leader of Sons of the Seven, not to be confused with Daughters of the Seven, Telchar.
Hey, welcome to be back again, and hopefully we can wrap this episode up in a timely manner today.
I know, right? The Daughters of the Seven was an inside joke.
The gauntlet.
Yeah, I know. It's like really slapped me down. I think it was for the Daughters comment, but I said in our pre-show that the DCN still hasn't really picked a name for our guild in Ashes because we kind of flow with whatever is maybe lore specific, and he suggested Daughters of the Seven, so therefore we're at that point related, I guess. That's pretty cool. No, anyway, inside joke. Sorry, had to bring it out. We are back again. This time, on our last episode, we talked about the Making MMOs Great Again panel. We have a few questions that we explicitly did not answer because this podcast episode, each one of these guys were at PAX, got a chance to play the demo and got a chance to experience all that PAX was, including, you know, the PAX Plague, which I'm glad none of them seem to have right now, but it may be laying dormant. I don't know. Scary. So we're going to do that now. We're
literally coughing while muted as you say that.
It was funny because before the show I was coughing and I kept muting. I'm like, I didn't even go to PAX. So we're going to be talking about the experience that these guys have had at PAX. We're going to dig into the demos and what we thought about them. So let's go ahead and just jump right on into that. I mean, Telchar, you and I, we had that on episode 17, I think it was. It was during PAX that we recorded one late night. Late night.
late night thing.
Yeah, I don't think we started recording till like 3 a.m. my time or something like that, or whatever, something along those lines.
Well, we were waiting for some, other guests, to come on, but they're busy. So
yeah.
Wow. We were waiting to hear back from you, but then I brought the party.
And by busy, you mean making bad life choices that Yeah.
You
Asari.
survived.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. We were also up to about 3 a.m. our time, or actually, Atropos went to bed about 2 hours before me. But
I did, yeah. I was like, I've had enough of this.
he made at least one good life choice.
Yeah.
Nice. But yes, so we're back, and we really want to hear from these guys. I guess first off, let's just go down the list. I know Telchar, you and I already asked this question, but what did you guys think of the PAX presentation, at least on a high level? Let's start with Sinbad first.
Sure. Honestly, I was really impressed with that. The overall arch on the set there they have there, the booth, that was beautiful, and it really attracted a lot of attention. It kind of brought that mysteriousness to the world, like right there in real life. So the whole presentation, from just like that, that kind of standpoint, it really shined. But the gameplay itself, being able to actually experience both the PvE and PvP aspects of the game, that was pretty awesome, especially for just 90 days that they had to do that in. I was impressed, to be honest.
Nice. Atropos.
Yeah, totally agree. I thought that they deserve massive kudos, not only for how well PAX went, but especially for like the bravery that it took to decide to show the game this early on. I mean, I think that probably really took some guts, because they would have had to decide pretty quickly. I mean, more or less around the Kickstarter that they were going to do that. So yeah, I mean, I think they deserve all the plaudits. I worked really hard when I was sort of giving my like hands-on feedback of the overall experience and all the classes and all the game modes. I worked really hard to try to keep it balanced and touch on both the good and the bad, and I honestly felt like a little bit of an ass for like picking out anything negative given where they are in development. So it's really hard to to find any meaningful reason to be critical. I think they totally deserve all the kudos that they've gotten.
Right. And, it's actually funny that you mentioned it, because Steven said it during one of the live streams that coming out with such a pre-alpha build, he doesn't know if anyone's ever done that. And I'm like, well, in my head I started thinking, like, well, other games do show pre-alpha, like, because I was thinking of Camelot Unchained and Crowfall, but then I'm sitting there going, well, no, they haven't really showed what they've done to a non-already following audience, like... Yeah,
I was thinking about that for the article that I assume I can refer to in past tense at this point, when this actually airs.
Probably.
I was like, has anybody ever done this? And I was like, well, they sure as hell didn't go up onto the location that Intrepid chose for this, because they weren't up on floor 6 with the indie stuff. They were sitting right beside Bandai, on the same floor as like the Twitch Lounge and Nintendo, and I'm trying to remember other things that were right there beside them.
H1Z1.
Yeah, they were right across the way.
Well, see, there is one unfinished game there.
Yeah.
Oh, ouch. Not untrue, but that's why the truth hurts, I guess. No, it is true. They were going up against various companies that have quite the funding. Like you said, you got Bandai, you've got Daybreak, which arguably, I don't know if they're still banking on their SOE money or not. I don't really know at this point, because
I think everybody was shocked that they had that booth there.
Yeah, right.
I was surprised.
Right. And sorry, I guess, we'll fill out with you here.
Yeah, I've kind of mostly chimed in. I also had very low expectations that they easily succeeded. I thought the booth layout was really, really impressive. It came out, about as well as you could hope it could. Although it was not mentioned by Sinbad that there was a brutal assault that occurred right under the arch, and thankfully I have photo proof here.
To which just messed up my cameras and didn't actually appear.
Oh, does it change around?
Yeah,
oh no!
It does.
Oh no! I thought it would just take over my screen.
No, it doesn't, because it throws it right in the center, and
Did they come back to the right place?
They're in the right place now. Yeah.
Okay. You know what? Maybe if I remember, I'll just send you that picture.
Yeah, that'd be great. Maybe I'll use it as, the image stuff. I don't know. Maybe.
Fine. No more visual gags from me.
messing up my production quality. Like, so if anyone gives me bad marks on like production quality for this episode, I'm blaming it on you for that. No,
yeah, last time I made you edit something.
I know. Yeah, the last episode I have to edit, and now this one I can't edit that except for just removing all of it. But okay, never mind. All right. Oh, cool. I mean, I from the pictures that I know Telchar was sending us, like the panoramic one, it looked gorgeous just for a booth. Like, I've seen other other booths that are essentially a folding table, and they put their banner on whatever they got. They really did go all out. I guess Intrepid also bought the booth. I guess.
Yeah, they own it.
So like, instead of renting the whole thing, they own that completely. Okay. All right. Cool. Because I guess they're going to be going to future conventions, which is something I'm kind of banking on with PAX East, because that's actually fairly close. Getting up there and getting to meet everyone.
Apparently, the company that they bought it from is like a pretty universal, labor company, and they do all the storage and like transport for it too. And apparently, it's actually based out of Dallas, so it's centrally located. So all the stuff for the booth will be stored in Dallas, so that they can, they don't have to hold it at their studio or anything. It's all managed off-site, so that they can, if they start doing the con roundabout, it's not too big of a deal for them to just hit each one and prepare for it like that. So
right. Definitely. Well, I kind of hope they do. I mean, based on the schedule, PAX East is going to be like March of next year. So at that point, Alpha Zero should be underway. Possibly even some Alpha 1 stuff. Possibly that could be either here or there. But it'd be nice to be able to actually see them at more conventions, because obviously this one seems to have went really, really well for them. So that is definitely exciting.
Yeah, that line was pretty obscene to get into the booth at all times of the day, every single day. I remember Monday morning we were hanging out and we were like, yeah, it's everybody's tired. Yeah, it's probably going to be pretty calm Monday. I think a lot of people went home or are going to go home in the afternoon. Nope. Biggest line that morning I'd seen the whole weekend.
By my back of the envelope accounting, I think there's probably around 2,000 people who played the demo.
Yeah.
Or one of the demos. So it's like a lot of people to get through and get hands-on experience with the game. So
right.
We had a lot of the, you can also think about the people that were watching too, like over on the back side next to the PvE experience. There was a ton of people that were always just sitting there watching the gameplay, interacting with those that had just left the booth, that kind of stuff too. So
that was another thing they did that was really nice. A lot of PAX booths put their demo stations like inside an enclosure. And they had their demo stations out in the open where anyone who's walking by could actually like watch gameplay. So that was a really nice move.
Well, I mean that would encourage you to. You walk by, you see people playing something, you look over and go, "Wow, what is this?" Whether or not you think it's WoW or not, but you get to actually see something. You're not just drawn in from the booth itself.
Hopefully, no one thought it was WoW.
What's funny is that the booth is literally the closest thing next to the concession stand on that floor. So people that may not have been paying attention to it at all got their food and stuff, and then they see this huge line and all the activity going on. They're like, "Hey, let's go check that out." So it's kind of funny that it ended up being right there at the end of the line at either the biggest or one of the biggest square foot booths that was at the convention. So it was huge.
See, everyone keeps talking about Steven being a marketing genius. And I mean, honestly, if you're at a convention, where are the two places you want to be? Either the bathroom or the food stand, and that's where you'll get the most foot traffic.
Right?
Right there. I like it. All right, cool. Okay, so obviously you guys all played the different experiences. Which one was your favorite of the two?
I have to say mine was probably the PvP experience. I really enjoyed the arena. I know it's like counter to what most people were in line for. Most people were in line for the PvE experience, going through that dungeon. Mm-hmm. But for me, I loved being able to actually play against other people. That's my main thing I do in most games. I'm mostly a PvP player, and being able to use the mage and finally learn how to use the mage well in that area, even with the combo bar being like it is. Like it was a lot of fun.
Nice. Atropos.
It's tough. For fun factor, I agree. I totally agree about the arena. I mean, I thought that packaged really well into a 10-minute experience for a convention. It was a lot of fun, even given the rawness of some of the mechanics. What I did really like about the PvE experience is I felt like maybe I learned a little bit more about the game from that, and got a little bit more of a sense of what the game might feel like. I think with PvP, like, so much will change as the character progression mechanics change, as abilities change, as weapons change. Even the PvP game modes are going to change a lot. So while it was fun, and I probably enjoyed the PvP more, I guess I liked the PvE more because I felt like I took more away from it.
Mm-hmm. Sorry.
So actually, it's kind of funny. When I came into PAX at first, I was talking to Jeffrey because at that point I had a time schedule to come back and talk to them and get the demo and have it shown to us, and I wanted to know what was going to be shown. Do I have to wait in line now, or can I just come back and get the same experience as part of my scheduled media tour? And he said we're going to do the PvE tour, and I thought, well, it's really hard to showcase PvP this early and have it be good or come off well at all, and I'm not sure that's even worth checking out, to be honest. And I was so wrong. So obviously I ended up going through the line because I spent most of my time at this booth anyway. I did PvP a couple times, and it came off really, really well. I guess I'm not sure if we're getting too early into the impressions here, but movement felt pretty much rock solid, which I wasn't expecting. I mean, I've played much worse in released MMOs. It was very, very responsive, very satisfying. The abilities, some of them were a little bit wishy-washy, and it really depended a lot on what class you were playing. Things felt really good on the mage, but for the most part, I thought it was a really fun, really enjoyable experience, even though one of the devs kept coming over and telling me to focus on the objectives. This is before anybody knew who I was. And I'm like, no, I'm getting style points. And I just spent the whole time trying to kill the ranger on the other team. Well, successfully killing the ranger on the other team. I think we had probably the closest match of the PAX there, because I was just doing the bare minimum of focusing on the objectives and then going back to killing the ranger. They had 4 of the, was it 5 points, I think? They had 4 of the 5 points and were rapidly catching up on the lead we had established earlier on, and we ended up winning by I don't know, 30 out of 2,000 points. So, yep, I got the style points in the win, and that's what matters. But even though I really, really enjoyed the PvP a lot more than I was expecting to, I think the PvE is my favorite. I really liked the way they had a dev sort of DMing you through the experience. In my case, I had Jeffrey, and he did a really, really good job with it. I remember I broke it by taking the mage teleport and ramming into the side of a carriage. Not on purpose, but there are actual physics in the game, and the carriage is the whole time. And his quick response is that, as you can see here in Ashes of Creation, our horses are very strong. They don't even need wheels. And then we just kept going, and the other mage broke it too. And that was kind of silly, but yeah, I liked it. You got sort of a more holistic experience. The boss fight was pretty cool. We can talk more about that later.
Yep.
But yeah, I think the sort of guided DM experience that they were doing for the PvE groups put it over the top for me, even though the PvP was really fun, much more fun than I would have expected it to be, really.
Telchar, I don't actually think I asked you this when we were there. Maybe I did, but I kind of want to hear it anyway.
I think that in terms of personal experience, I like the PvP more because I got to play it the most. But if I'm doing an objective, just experience one time, especially when Matt Broom was there helping kind of shuttle people in, and the handoff that they had kind of developed on Saturday was a really fun thing to watch, because once they got into their groove and started to figure out how to the process of how to do it, we'd be talking to people at the front, me and then a couple of other artists and their guys that are out at the front, greeting people, running down the line to get new people in, or we need one PvE or that kind of stuff. And all the while we're talking to them about what their experiences are with games and what they're expecting out of the booth, and have they heard of us before and that kind of stuff. And as soon as we move them in, Matt would take over and really re-up them and get them going because they've just been standing in line for 3 hours or whatever. So it was really fun to watch. Like if I was one of those people and wasn't experiencing it in my way, I would love to have had that kind of really personal like handoff between developers, especially if I knew they were developers. And a lot of the booths, like I think we talked about on the last episode, is they don't really have devs at these things. It's like maybe a PR or marketing person that doesn't really, they may know about the game, but they didn't really have their hands involved in making it. And you can definitely tell with their team composition at Intrepid that they work really well together, and they kind of just picked up off of each other's energy, and just the whole environment was really positive, which is why I think it did so well, is because it was a constant just frenetic pace of helping people out and trying to help them understand the classes and all that kind of stuff. So I would say the PvE experience, because of that DM'd nature of it, having that walkthrough, having people show the role playing of what this can possibly be, was a really good way of selling the booth, if that makes sense. So
absolutely.
We talked a little bit about the team chemistry in the last episode with the panel specifically, and I just remember something that I thought was really funny, and it's worth sharing, I think, because it's like me and Telchar, maybe the only people who could actually share this story. But there was a moment on the panel when they're early, and he was saying like a couple jokes they made. One of them was like, "Man, we may as well walk to San Diego at this rate with how far the west it was from the actual convention." But the other one was, he said, what if no one shows up? That conversation was actually happening, and it was really funny because Atropos had already told me he was in line like 30 minutes ago. I knew there was a big line, and he's like, once I did this thing and like 15 people showed up, and wouldn't that be awful? And it was so, I hate to use the word cute, but it was cute watching.
Endearing.
Exactly, endearing, watching them stress out over that to show up and have like an massively packed, pretty much full house.
Yeah, it was basically packed. Yeah.
Yeah. That like none of that was scripted. That's all real. That chemistry you see in the panel, and it's great. It's a really encouraging energy from them all.
And I actually wanted to mention this last episode. I seem to remember this. A lot of times when I talk to developers and stuff, they're not, and I know Isarii can probably attest to this, there's that level of social charisma that a lot don't have. And I was getting a real, what is his? I can't remember his name now. He just retired from Blizzard. The chief lore guy from Blizzard. He was like a head of franchise. He did the voice of Thrall. Help me out here. No? Seriously? All right. Anyway, watching him at BlizzCon and stuff like that, he's got that level of charisma.
Okay, yeah.
That a lot of developers don't have. And just seeing these guys up on stage the way they talked before, it was really nice to see, because they were personable, and they kind of made you feel like, wow.
Chris Metzen, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, I had to Google it. When you said the voice, when you mentioned Thrall, I was like, oh shit, I should know who this is.
Yeah, I know I should have done that too, but you could actually see the difference, and not to complain too much, but Mike Morhaime, the president, he doesn't have that level. Like, so they put Chris Metzen on first, and it's like, wow, this guy gets everyone hyped. He's got a lot of personality. It's fun to listen to. Then you put Mike on, who's more of the back-end guy, and just kind of drones on a bit. And it's just nice to see, like, almost everyone up on that stage was very much just they had a nice presence that made it so you can transfer the hype. Like, that's what one of the things Chris Metzen did great with World of Warcraft is when he was there, even if you didn't like World of Warcraft, when he was done, you're like, yeah, I'm really hyped for this. And then, Mike Morhaime comes on and you're like, okay, I'm now bored. But anyway, I think that was neat that their level of personality that they offer really does well for the game, because it really does bring people and get them excited, even if they weren't before. So we're going to go ahead and move into combat. And this is a question that was asked during the roundtable, but I saved it specifically because I know all of us have a lot we want to talk about. And they mentioned the combat minigame, so I'll kind of paraphrase this a little bit, and their answer, and we'll kind of talk about it and give our impressions. So The one guy who came up during the convention pretty much said, I kind of hated the minigame at first, but it kind of grew on me, except for specific classes. The mage felt pretty good, but melee wasn't so much. And he asked whether, developers were set in stone. And obviously, they pretty much said combat is one of the most important aspects for an MMO, because, if that's what you're doing, unless you're playing a game like Wander, which I don't think even exists anymore, combat is something you do a lot of the time. So when they added the quick time event, they did it because they didn't want to have an auto attack. It builds focus, which is then a resource that you can spend on other abilities. There's more to it. What did you guys feel about the combo system?
So let me jump in on that first, because I actually did a video on this all the way back on September 6th, which is apparently what day it is today.
Yes. You're breaking the fourth wall, dude.
Yep. No, but I did a YouTube video that's on AshenFoundry.com, and it was funny because this is one of the big things that I wanted to see, because I watched the initial video pre-PAX that showed the combo system, and I was unimpressed. And I watched Death Proxy had a video on that as well, and I was more or less in line with what he was saying at the time. But I selflessly decided to wait 3 days to actually play the game before I solidified my opinion on the system. And it worked out a lot better than I thought it was going to. We learned a lot of things at PAX that kind of changed my mind there, and I guess I'll just go on an exposition trip here. The first one, it only applies to your number one key, the weapon skill. That was just huge. I thought this was something that was going to be needlessly tacked onto a lot of different skills. It's not. Once I realized, this is their design philosophy for making the auto attack less boring, it suddenly made a whole lot more sense. After that, and after having tried it, my first question was, besides making sure that it was always going to be the one skill and they weren't going to be putting it in other places, which they did confirm, was to say, okay, so the UI is at the bottom of my screen. Obviously, this is a pre-alpha UI, and it's going to change. What types of... are we going to be able to move this if we want to? Scale it in size, adjust transparency, and all of those were confirmed, in addition to having different options for most UI elements. That was something Steven specifically mentioned. It doesn't have to be a bar. Maybe you want it to be a circle that fills up, was an option that he kept mentioning that they are going to have. I kept bringing up ArcHUD to try that, get that ingrained in everybody that I talk to's mind from WoW, the one that puts the two arcs kind of around your character. If I could have an ArcHUD type setup for this, it would be something where I didn't have to look away from the center of my screen where the action is happening, and I think that would help a lot. But yeah, once I got used to it, it worked pretty well, and I enjoyed it, and I thought it was something that definitely spiced up the times when you're just going sort of 1-1-1. Another thing I don't think was talked about in the video, but this one may have been, was that its success in the combo system functions as your resource generator for focus, which is essentially your ultimate. But that if you want, you can slot more than one ultimate ability, more than one focus spender. I think there's a lot we need to learn there. Something I talk about in my reactions article. But I think that's pretty interesting and well, and sort of makes success at the combos more compelling. I think I'll toss to, there's still so much more to say, toss to Aggelos and Atropos here. This sounds exactly like if the finesse system that never made it in ESO had been like a functioning version of their design philosophy, right?
No, exactly. When I first saw it, the first thing that came to my mind was the finesse from ESO that got scrapped. It got scrapped for a reason that I'm not really sure of, in favor of a more boring mechanic, which no one really cared about anyway.
That was broken, and then they had to fix it with something even more boring.
Yes. Yeah, no, I agree. It was finesse, and it's something that I actually, especially when we were talking about it early on and when we knew about it, was one of the systems that I was most excited about in ESO, because it was a way of separating good players from bad in a meaningful way. There's still ways you can do it in ESO now, and that's like animation canceling, which feels gamey and cheesy and all right, whatever. I mean, technically it's the same thing that you would have been doing with finesse, with timing and whatnot, but I don't know, it just feels wrong the way ESO now does it to show a good from a bad player versus a system like that would actually make people feel good about what they were doing.
And the timing minigame, I guess, is a little bit gamey, but it at least feels, someone timing their attacks precisely does feel like something that could be a part of combat, even if functionally you're just watching a meter.
Right. I mean, it's the same mythos as animation canceling. You're watching your animations knowing when you can cancel it, but the difference about having a bar and having to look at an animation to know when you're breaking the animation is perception, right? The bar, you're doing the same thing, but it gives you the perception that you're doing something that is a game system, whereas animation canceling is you doing something that you know is outside the realm of the game that makes you function better.
Kind of add on to that. So like the perception in combat for people to be able to maximize this kind of system based on what Intrepid decides to do with how many augments and like what that means per hitting combos. I kind of thought that I had asked Jeff.
By the way, I think I know I had a really long monologue, but I think you're introducing one of the things I didn't get to yet. Do you want to explain?
Sure. Yeah. So like the augment system, the goal of it is to basically make that one mechanic as well as the functional changes that will come with the secondary classes be choice-based. So you'll have the option of doing various different things with the augments. It's not going to be like every single cleric is going to have every single set of 5 augments. I think 5 is the number that I remember them saying is what we'll get to choose out of. It could be something such as like a cleave on the first combo, a stunning attack on the second combo, and then on the final combo it could be like a multi-hit that does extra elemental damage. There's tons of little cool things that they can add in to the sequential hits that then you can use as amplifications for the other abilities. It could be something so much as like you have, like let's say it's a tank or whatever. You land your combos and it applies like a stacking burn on the target, and it burns them. And that will continue to generate threat as you walk, like a dot or something like that. Another one could be like if there's like some kind of like for the fighter, it could be like you successful strikes over and over make them take increased damage from next sequential strikes. That means you could like game it to where you build them up with all of those, with that buff little short-term timer, and then use your big combo bursting ability to finish them or something like that. So it's not a one-dimensional thing.
At each step of your weapon combo, you'll be able to choose and customize what action your character is performing there.
Right, and it makes it so it's much more not one-dimensional in your choice. You may decide, like, well, this is a hypothetical, that one stage combo is actually a better thing to shoot for and letting it reset, instead of trying to go through number 3. So like that's kind of like the out gaming thing that can come in the long run, at least according to what Jeff is kind of thinking it might turn into for the goal, So
and that brings in situational effects as well, like you were mentioning, and this was something that they confirmed with this question, saying that you're going to be able to augment, and as you're messing with that one skill which affects the weapon that you're currently using, every weapon will have it. You'll be able to augment different combo effects. What if you mentioned an AoE thing? All right, perfect. And you put it on a certain combo. What if whatever boss or whatever it is that you're fighting, AoE is bad for whatever reason? Like you can't hit a target that's around it. You would have to go, okay, I'm ending my combo at 2 because that big AoE cleave at number 3 is going to,
cause problems.
Cause issues. So
yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah,
it makes it a lot more compelling. And granted, I'll let you go in a second. Granted, that could be accomplished with a customizable attack chains as well. But I think taken holistically, I like the design.
That's what this is. It's a customized attack chain.
Well, true. What I meant was without any sort of timing minigame attached. Okay. If it was just like Guild Wars 2, where it flips and then flips and then flips.
Well,
anyway, I think Andrew was saying, I think something before I rudely cut him off like I do.
I'd only forgive you because you made such a good video about the combo system. So this is your platform to,
I've still got one more thing to say, but
no, you don't.
I'm giving someone else a chance to bring it up first. I left 2 things for you guys.
Well, I'll be brief. If this were the combat system in a game that was releasing in a month, and I were a reviewer, I would probably pan it. It needs work. But it's absolutely not that, and you have to contextualize what it is with what they're obviously trying to do. What is the intention? What is the aspiration behind the design of the system? And I think, there's really 3 things that I would just briefly mention. One, it's a skill differentiator. So you take 2 characters, same class, same archetype, same gear, same abilities. It's a really nice way within the spirit of combat itself to allow there to be skill differentiation between similar players in PvP. 2, it's a character progression path. You guys talked already about the secondary and ancillary effects that you can add to customizing the combo chain. I think that's going to be really cool. 3, it makes a really nice kind of dual combat style for people who have different preferences in MMOs. It plays into what they're doing with allowing certain character builds to focus more on action combat, skill-based combat, skill shots, generation of ultimate timing, while it allows other builds who are maybe players who don't want the sort of Twitch-based combat or want more sort of conventional tab targeting to have a combat experience that feels good for them. We've seen with so many games, the style of combat system that the game used can be a big point of contention within the fan community, and it can drive some people away. And the way that they're going about having kind of like 2 different paths to success in combat, I think is really nice. And I think that it's going to really reward players who want to chase after that skill-based experience, while not being something that you're forced to do if you're someone who wants, sort of more of a conventional tab target-based combat experience.
Something to jump off on that real quick. One of the big kind of things that people had talked about when I was asking them about their thoughts about like what it could be in the long run after they played it is that they don't see themselves really enjoying constant combat with that, where it would be kind of draining to be always having to focus on doing that, which I completely agree with. That means that they need to make sure that the other abilities are powerful enough to let you move to and from regular grinding type combat, because I would get kind of like, it's really intense for like that kind of action, you miss a combo, that kind of stuff in PvP, it's punishing. I don't want it to be balanced around having to hit those kind of combos for regular old just day-to-day grinding little combat. Like the peaks of combat is where that is needed, and the bosses and like elites and stuff like that in PvP is where that's needed. But otherwise, just mundane tasks can be accomplished with just one swing. You don't have to hit the combo. The regular abilities are strong enough to handle most mundane tasks. So that's what I just wanted to pitch that in real fast. Sorry to interrupt you.
Actually, concerns with repetitive stress injuries, like carpal tunnel, which many of us have, has been something I've been bringing up a lot as well. And I think a lot of people are worried by superfluous clicking that may not be value-adding. And it seems value-adding to me.
A lot of these people are like, I want pure action one where I'm clicking all the time. Anyway, we're getting on that. Sinbad's been trying to say something. Sinbad, what about you?
Well, I think you guys touched on pretty much everything at this point. I don't think there's really anything I can contribute as far as the system goes. But having played through it myself multiple different times on each different character, I can definitely say that there is some cons to being a melee fighter with it. Mainly that if you are not close enough, it completely wastes your opportunity to hit the combo. So if they move away even just a foot from you, and it's slightly outside your range, then it's pointless. You're not going to hit that, and then your whole combo is wasted. So it can make it to where it's a very tedious process in that point, because you have other things you want to focus on as well. But all the other points you guys have brought up, it's already kind of touched on everything else I was thinking on at this point.
Presumably,
go ahead.
Pardon me, just very briefly, Aggelos. Presumably, the inherent challenge in comboing as a melee character, because of the range limitation, the range requirement on your weapon, presumably that should be taken into account when they balance the actual damage output and attack speed. And I mean, it should be harder to combo as melee when you've got an enemy that's kiting or running away, but it should also be higher reward. So I mean, hopefully they'll get that right.
As it is right now, it's not fast enough. So, the combo doesn't move through quick enough to where you can actually hit it. But you're right. If they do balance that, if they speed up that timing, I think it would be a workable system at that point.
And Atropos actually brought up exactly what I was going to bring up. You're bringing up the age-old question of range versus melee anyway.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether it's an actions, World of Warcraft being a tab target still has that of bosses lay down fire in the room. Range is just better to bring because it's hard
range
for
is
melee.
always easier. It's always easier. Yeah. But, they can make interesting systems with the combo mechanics where maybe melee characters can attack so much faster, they can combo so much faster that they can, maybe Ashes can do a much better job than some other MMOs have done at actually having the right sort of risk-reward versus, being a melee character versus being ranged. I would love that.
Yeah. Although that is actually sort of the back half of the problem with melee, which is the other thing I was going to bring up, actually. So the first one is people constantly outranging you, which sucked and was frustrating. And I think melee range just needs to be longer than it was. Just a little bit, like 30-40% longer than it was in the demo as well. But that problem's not one that's going to go away, even if you doubled it. But the other thing is that the melee attack chains are much faster, just because it's locked to the skill animation. And while that could be a balancing point, it was also a source of, I think, tremendous frustration. I know, Aggelos, you uploaded over-the-shoulder cam footage of somebody playing the melee class, and all the comments were like, "This dude sucks," and I was like, nah, it's pretty just tough. It's really, really, I won't curse this time, hard to hit those. They even though they widened the attack window for you to make the combo, the bar just went so fast on this. And by the way, that is something that was a known issue. I think they were hearing it all day, but they were like, we put this combat system together very quickly before this. It may not always be locked to the animation speed, but this is how it is now.
I actually filmed that guy too, and I know which one you're talking about.
I thought that was you.
He was brand new to playing MMOs, so he was a little not too good.
I'm gonna defend the guy anyway. It was hard. I look just as bad.
Well, and this is
at least
something
in terms of comboing.
Something that you bring in, like you said, the incentivizing or providing rewards. Possibly one thing that they could do to balance out is, yes, melee's harder, but maybe melee can combo higher, such as range can combo 2 or 3 times and then it resets, whereas melee can combo 5 or 6 times and get increasingly higher combo effects as you go on. Yep. There's ways of doing that. There's also something that you could do, such as a melee grace period. Like, what if the bar, like we saw the bar would go like this and you had to hit it, right? What if melee got a second time, like it went forward and then back to provide a little bit extra? Like, there's ways you can do it.
That's actually a really good suggestion,
Yeah, like, as range, you got the bar going once, but as melee, it goes, and then back again, and as long as you hit it within that would provide you that half a second extra you needed of, they stepped out of range, I got to get closer.
And it could be a reduced effect or something like that as well.
There's something that they could do is maybe based on what the augments are, they have a various sized bar based on what their effect is. So, like, a really high damaging, like, final finisher one that you put it might have a really small, tiny one that it's really hard to hit. But then, like, a basic one that's like just a threat generation, like a 3-part combo for tanks, could be really wide. And it's really simple, it's more spammy like that, but it maybe make it, I don't know, there's a way you can make it not so just where you're just pressing one, like make it have a little bit of a timing, but give it more grace on the red zone of hitting,
I think the animations though do make that kind of difficult because with the ranger, you've got the long drawback, mages can sit there and do things and it looks normal, but if the warrior's like it looks a bit silly.
And I wait.
I'd also like to see.
I wait.
And I wait.
It's coming now. Okay. Yeah. No.
For me,
like the Skyrim power attack that you're just running around holding.
Or the ESO
I was thinking of the classic anime where you're like running at someone, but the Discord would probably love that suggestion.
Oh, please don't.
Weeps.
Please don't.
I had thought some ideas about the combo system for melee on being like a little clock. Basically, it would be a little constant thing that's always happening, in a HUD next to your character, and when you hit the timer, it shows you both the bar and like a timing window so you can kind of like get on the pace of the abilities. Like you can, that's your auto attack swing timer. Is that like the base attack time is this little spinny wheel thing, and then it lets you prepare moving in. I don't know, because like there's no, until we know more about it, the weapons and like what the difference is between like a long sword, like a thrusting sword or something like that. There's going to be, I think that's what's going to determine the pace at which those move by, right? Like a long, heavy swing will be easier to get. It should probably have a smaller range, to hit. The small short sword fast attacks would probably, if it flips by real fast, it's going to be harder to hit because there's not enough warning,
I like the clock idea a lot. Basically just give melee a completely different timing mechanic to play. I think that could be made to work in a number of ways. When you said that, even if it's not in the same point every time, which I wouldn't have a big problem with, particularly if it kept going, even if you weren't comboing, make them wait for it if they're at the wrong time. But even if it was just something like sort of Tetris, where you have like an outside-inside point where they can see where the next point is going to be, that would be really helpful as well. I think that's a really good idea, something in that vein.
I also have an idea based on something Telchar said. You mentioned like if you're playing the game hours a day and you're just like grinding trash mobs or something, it could get kind of old, like going hardcore on the combo system the entire time. I wouldn't mind if they even added like an auto attack toggle that like that just like automatically hit 50% on the bar every time. And sometimes you might get lucky and combo just by accident, and sometimes it's just like you get a couple of attacks in. I don't know. I mean, I just feel like there's some players that, regardless of how fun they make it, they're just not going to like doing it. But
one thing that I think they could do is just increase the amount of combos you can get. I mean, they only had two. You have one hit, and then it's the second one.
It was too few. I mean, the chain was real short, but
it was.
Yeah.
And if they increase that, and then they maybe increase the speed of it, you could definitely make it to where it's less tedious, especially on larger mobs like that.
I don't buy the whole argument. I get what you're saying. The combo system, if you're just doing the menial task, which Telchar you brought up earlier, but okay. When does the combo system really need for menial tasks? I can tell you right now, I didn't do my perfect raid rotation to do daily quest. Like, you can choose.
That's because you're a bad player.
Not. Well, okay.
It's warm up.
Ouch. All right, fine. Okay, gloves off. Yeah. You ever see that Robin Hood Men in Tights where, the guy goes up and slaps him with the glove and then he picks up the gauntlet? That's what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
No, it's true. Like, that argument doesn't hold any weight for me just because, fine, don't do the combo. It's no different than me not doing the raid-approved rotation, for optimal DPS while I'm out questing. Like, that is something you choose to do or you don't.
See, there's the problem with that, though. There's no auto attack. So, like, you're going to end up using these massive skills that have a long read time, like a long time run-up. These massive skills that basically take a while to recharge, right? Like, without that auto attack. Yeah, like, which I appreciate.
Cooldowns.
But, like, on a regular mob, like, there's really no other option but to use that quick time event on your number one skill, basically, that combo. There's what other option is there except for doing that or using those long cooldowns?
Well, and here's the thing, though.
I mean, you can just use the one skill.
You can just use the one skill casually.
I was doing plenty of that on the warrior.
Yeah, like, you don't have to hit the combo. Like, yeah, I get it. There's not an auto attack, but what game? Like, seriously, what game at max level could you sit there? I can tell you right now, if I went into World of Warcraft and just auto attacked even a monster that's non-elite, non-anything, and just auto-attacked, there's a good chance I may die. Like, auto-attack is...
SWTOR.
Yeah.
SWTOR, you could definitely just go AFK and things would die. You can do that with bosses in SWTOR.
Certain games will neither here nor there, but auto-attacking was always meant as an augment, as a way of bringing in extra damage while cooldowns aren't there. But just doing an auto-attack is more often than not going to allow you to even win against a standard mob of your level, because it's just not.
I have a quick question for...
Someone bring up a point just to finish the argument, maybe that whatever. But we need to get their ideas on what they intend this combo mechanics maximum output damage is compared to the other abilities and their maximum output if you focus on it. If you do a split, is it truly 50-50 or is it like a 30-70 or like what's the split on investment versus the amount of effort? Like if there's a cost to invest in the auto attack, what is that? In terms of talent points, etc., what are the costs for doing it on the long cooldown based ones? Like perhaps they lower cooldowns, blah, blah, blah. There's lots of different things you can do. We just need to figure out what their intentions are for the maximum min-maxed of what the combo system is versus the cooldowns. So.
Right. And I mean, that's numbers that will get filled out. But I get what you're saying. Even a high overview, what in your eyes does the combo system represent? Is this 10% of my total DPS output? Is it 50? That's the difference. Like you can ESO is another perfect chance. If you're not animation canceling, you are literally losing 40% of your DPS or higher. Like it's exceptional. Like if you're just sitting there doing your normal abilities, you may pull maybe 9k DPS, maybe. If you're animation canceling, you're pulling 22, 23, 24k. Like there's a huge gap between it. Like it's way more than you would think. So yeah, I get that. The next thing that I guess I kind of want to bring up, because we kind of been dodging around and I kind of want to know people's thoughts, and Atropos really brought this up during his points, and I glad you did. I was going to segue off of it, but we had more conversation. Steven mentioned during one of the questions about skill cap, like what kind of skill cap players are looking for. Is this going to be an easy to get into? Is it really easy? Is there going to be a lot of difference between highly skilled and not so highly skilled players? And this was kind of a revelation to me, maybe not to other people so much, but the skill tree he mentioned was a combination of action skills and tab target. Like you'd be able to choose. If you wanted to make a total tab target character, it might be possible. If you wanted to make an action combat character, it may be possible. Of just doing that to separate highly skilled players from those who want more easy entry. Is this a good system? Is this something you're going to see issues with? Like, Sinbad, what are your thoughts? You haven't got a chance to talk that much.
Well, I mean, as far as action combat goes, I feel like that is going to be a higher skill level overall, just because you are going to have to be more reactive, you have to be more on top of things. With the tab target, you can kind of just put it on your tab and then just press buttons as you go. And of course, you have your timers and whatnot, but it's not going to be as high of a level of skill. Now, that could actually be a problem to a certain extent as far as like new players coming in the game. They could easily be outclassed if they're not quite aware, if they don't have those action combat skills unlocked yet. Because it could be, we don't know how it's going to necessarily progress. It could be that you don't get all these action combat skills until much later in the game. So for the newer players, they might be easy targets for a lot of people.
Okay. Telchar, or whoever's speaking next. Sorry. Atropos, I guess.
I'm happy to defer to you, Telchar, if you have... I've got a thought. If you...
Yeah, like that is one concern that I think is going to end up being a balancing issue for them, and it'll probably end up being based on how the map is laid out, and that there will be somewhat of a EVE Online-esque safe zone-ish thing that people can play and level up a decent amount to get to a minimum competency to go out into the greater nodes and then work on those from there, where they would actually have to have the skills to be able to fight the best players. I mean, yeah, people will go out there on the start when new server starts and stuff like that, but I think there's going to have to be some kind of like level of like they're not going to be able to have everyone unlocked everything right at the start, because if you're interacting in the same playing field as those people, and it's going to be kind of weird when you're running around and you see a bunch of high level people run past you in the same. You're like, this is the starter farm. Like, what's going on here? So like, they're going to have to really be very careful about providing the ability for people to either fight against them or protect themselves from the vast range of people in in these kind of games. It's really like on EVE, you get punished so fast if you go out out into the low sec, you're dead, like instantly. Like you have no chance. Little new players will go out there just to explore, and they get killed and they quit the game because they don't know what's coming. So like they gotta have to be really careful about that because they're just not gonna be prepared to meet the new foe, if that makes sense. So it's a complicated issue that I don't really know how to do it. I would defer to their game knowledge on that, and like I think Steven probably has something thought up for it. And if it doesn't work out really well, we'll give him feedback. But it's a hard thing to tackle. So
I think it ultimately just comes down to a balance issue. I mean, action combat skills aren't inherently better or worse. It's all about the design, and it's all about the way they are balanced. I mean, if you had two abilities that had the same range, same cast speed, same damage, and one you have to manually aim, and one is like on aimbot tab target, you'd rather have the tab target skill. So, presumably it's just an issue of getting the risk reward right, of like the fact that you can miss with this ability versus the fact that it's potentially going to have a higher damage cap. That's also another interesting thing is there's going to be some combat scenarios in which even a very skilled player might prefer the tab target abilities. Like if you're fighting in like an urban environment where there's lots of like line of sight and you're just like ducking around the corner and you just want to kind of like pop out and zap someone with a lightning bolt, you might not want to have to manually aim a template every time. I think back to like my experience playing some MOBAs and like some heroes that had abilities that would just sort of automatically hit anything that's near you. Those could be really powerful under certain situations, and just because they're not doing skill shots doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to be bad. It's like any MMO going to be tricky to balance, but I think it just comes down to balance.
Right. Yeah, you actually hit the point exactly what I was thinking of. The easier it is to actually use a skill should be less rewarding as a whole, because you're guaranteeing, the hit versus not. I mean, that actually kind of happens in, again, ESO. There is the difference between the, they do have soft lock in some cases, but a lot of the instant skills, which are a lot easier to use, often have lower damage. Because, as long as your reticle is in the same, you'll hit the enemy, right? Now, skills that are like frontal cones that are easy to move out of are often the super hard hitting. I think of the Templar's puncturing strikes. It's a frontal cone.
The highest of all skill abilities.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a frontal cone, right? It does hit like a truck if the person stays in the cone for all 4 strikes. There are more simple target abilities that are a lot easier to do, but they offer less damage overall because it's, as long as you're in the same area, it's going to be easier to hit versus making sure something stays in the cone at one time. And that was just the one that I thought of, but there's other abilities in the game that actually have that same idea. If it's something like a fire and forget, the damage is often something that's not that big of a deal, right? It's whatever. But the ones that actually are targeted aim and that have a smaller range, smaller target that you actually have to hit, tend to actually cause or bigger damage. One thing back in Final Fantasy XIV in 2.0, my Thais is actually sitting right behind me. She may argue or she may not. I don't really know. But it was the argument of whether to use Cure 2 or Cure 3. Cure 2 was something that had a much wider target range, and it was easier to hit everyone, whereas Cure 3 was a heavier hitting heal, but you literally had to lay a ground target that was much smaller, so it was really only effective. Medica versus Cure, whatever. You had one that was just an AoE fire and forget, and it hits everyone with a heal, or you had a very tiny ground target. All right, now you're really messing with my audio. A ground target that would affect, more people if they stacked, and it was harder to hit, but it might have offered a better actual effect. All right, balancing time. All right, any kind of wrap-ups that you guys had from this? Like, I know Isarii wanted to pull up something. Gathering?
Oh, wait. Like a new topic?
Yeah, no, this is just any other final thoughts we
Okay.
had for the stuff. So it could be anything, all randoms. I think we've hit the most
Yeah,
combat-related
I thought
stuff.
gathering was dumb. It's currently you press a button on your skill bar. I believe it was 8, possibly something else, but yeah, something out there, and it toggles you into a gathering mode, which disables the use of your other skills, which was definitely confusing to all the new players. The first time through the booth. Once you're in that mode, you can ground target, and then you would hit the button again. You couldn't left click, but that's just a fixable issue, to gather from areas around the ground. I think that at first, actually, I'm kind of changing my mind because I'm realizing something new. Well, yeah, my first reaction was, why do I need to click on things to gather them? And this seems like a pointless minigame. But I think the point is that they don't want to mark what's gatherable, probably. They want to make you go into gathering mode and look for it. So they don't want it to be glowing or sparkling.
Maybe you did read my article.
Have an F to gather. Oh, was that in your article? No, I did not read your article. Okay, no.
I think we talked about this in a very early episode, too, about the idea of danger. I know they showed in one of the early videos the Fangler with the flower or whatever it is, that, it would jump out. What if that was something they tied into the gathering effect, that you couldn't see the Fangler, you just saw the flower, so when you're doing your AoE collect, if you hit that wrong flower, all of a sudden it becomes an enemy that you're attacking.
It could be like the false crates in Dark Souls, man.
Yeah.
Like basically the ones that just grump up and eat you real quickly.
Those mimics.
Oh yeah, mimics. Yeah.
As long as I can wear one on my head
you
and get bonus
actively-
experience.
Actively gather instead of just running around until you see a press F to gather button may have some virtue to it. And that seems consistent with... we talked to Steven a little bit about things like world design, and specifically the non-combat utilities that each class will have, things like the ranger being able to track tracks on the ground, which is actually pretty cool. You got to see that in the demo, how it would show up for everybody in the party as these glowing tracks once he had identified them, or the mage could dispel an illusion. I suppose they don't want it to be like a walk up, press F. You have to sort of actively know and figure out from... Yeah, an immersive perspective that there's something to interact with there. So that's probably what they're trying to do with the gathering. It just needs a smoother implementation, which could be said about anything in a pre-alpha game. So never mind, I'm fine with it. I talk myself into sort of understanding.
I talked myself into liking it. Okay, I like it now.
Took a couple days, but I guess I'm there now. I don't. Yeah, I like what it could be.
Yeah. I mean, one of the big things I could think about would be that in and out of combat state, which, like you said, was confusing. If they could make that a little more fluid, maybe it wouldn't be as jarring. You know what I mean?
I think once it has its... I assume that this type of skill will get its own dedicated button, not in the combat hotbar. And, like with a mount and your bags and that kind of thing, maybe. And that'll make it a lot more...
They can have it turn off once you get to, and once combat initiates too, they can just go. They can set back to the normal default stuff too. That's just simple.
And once we can set our own
changes,
keybinds, it's kind of a non-issue.
Too,
yeah, that's just stuff that'll come in time.
Mm-hmm.
Fine, gathering's fine. Never mind.
Anyone else on anything they want to say before we wrap up this episode?
Is it, there any merit in going like a quick round the horn about the boss experience?
Yeah, go for it.
I mean, I don't know that it's really that important. There's really very little that we can draw from pre-alpha. I think the most interesting thing that I had a question about the boss, which seemed an unanswered question at the time, like they're still figuring it out, because I asked some of the devs. Yes.
Can I give you proof that I read your article? Are you referring to the mist?
Yeah, please.
Are you referring to the mist? Okay.
Well, so we know that the mist was just for PAX.
Yeah.
But what I didn't know is to what extent they may try to protect boss encounters from the incursion of other players, whether it's other friendly PvE groups or whether it's hostile players. And, is it going to be sort of full open season? Like you could be doing a raid boss, or you could be doing a small group high difficulty dungeon boss, and there's just going to be people that come in and try to gank you in the middle of it? Or are there going to be these PvE encounters that are more sheltered? with like some like phasing or partial instancing or something, and it sounds like they're still playing around with different options there. That's when I was mentioning Dark Souls in my article with their fog walls. But yeah, I don't know. I thought that the boss was like fairly simplistic, but that was really a PAX decision. I think it had good style, so I'm happy. But I am kind of interested in how they blend boss encounters with the open world nature of the game.
Style was going to be my dumb takeaway, actually,
Yeah.
so I'll just do mine now, which is I thought the way it crawled off the wall and I didn't know it was there, and like the cutscene's going and then it just starts moving. It blended in really well, and I thought that was cool as shit. So I don't have any really interesting mechanical insight here. I just thought the presentation was really good.
Well, you could tell it actually had its own like cycle of going through things. Like it had its own AOE attack, its like focus attack.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was pretty neat that they could actually include all that in a 90-day demo.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot for a boss. Normally, like you might get lucky for like one consistent attack, but
Another point
Yeah,
to
it's
consider is that that boss was wiping non-experienced MMO
Oh,
players
absolutely.
through
Yeah.
too, so
They wouldn't
Yeah.
have wanted to make it any harder, not
Actually,
for PAX, but like,
Andrew can tell you this. I was doing pretty bad at it. We were playing this in the press box, and I had like Steven over my shoulder, like, "Get out of the mist! The mist is coming back!" And I'm like, "What's going on? Where's my blink button?" It was. It could have been better.
well, I think even the GM died at one point. He had a command prompt himself alive.
Nice.
yeah.
And I mean, I'm kind of with Atropos on. I don't like instancing, with the exception of boss battles, because if you don't have instancing for bosses, what you get is iteration 1 of Guild Wars 2 world bosses, where they look awesome, but if you have enough players, you can cheese all mechanics.
300 people.
Yeah.
Well, at this point, though, we also have iteration 2 of Guild Wars 2 world bosses, which are also non-instance and are awesome.
That's very true, and I actually do like some of the Guild Wars 2 stuff, but there's still not that level of complexity.
Yeah, it's not a rating.
Yeah, that some games like I know some people hate World of Warcraft, but their boss mechanics are on par. Like multi-phase fights,
They're well above par.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Par. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
they set the bar very high for instance fights, because there's some things. One of the ones I thought of right off the bat was Yogg Saron from that fight was insanity. Like literally,
That was still hard the next expansion. I was taking people through for mod runs, and they were all dying.
Yeah, like there were ones that were so difficult that even when you out-leveled it, it was like, wow, like it's something you can't do as easily, or at least I've not seen anyone be able to do it without some form of instancing. And I like the idea of, everything is open up until the boss room, in which case then it's like, okay, guys, whatever, your party enters, and that's your instance. You're fighting the boss.
Right. Now, it's important to remember that they're going to also have the event bosses, the ones that come up at a certain level of the node, that anyone can enter into, anyone can fight. Yeah. So it's going to be kind of like a mix of the two, I think.
Right.
Probably have like the instances where you have like the dungeons or raids that you have just your group in, and then also have those giant like kind of like world level events that everyone can kind of join in and fight.
And I'm fine with that if you have both. I think, like I said, you're only having the one, like the open world ones. I mean, let's face it, even on some of the harder fights in Guild Wars 2, like Tequatl, I still if there's enough players, I know I don't have to put in my best effort. I just need to auto attack a few times,
Caveat to that, remember people are going to have the monster coins during those events?
Yes.
So it won't be just that simple. People could easily join the other side. Then, so I mean, it's really going to be a hands on deck, all hands on deck, because if you don't join in, you could easily be overwhelmed.
Right. No, and I agree. That is something that does add a nice level of dynamic content to what would be boring world bosses. I know my analogy is from a game that doesn't have that. So yeah, there isn't that layer, but like I said, even the hard world bosses, if you have enough people, there are people who you can bring along who don't really need to contribute that much, and still, it becomes a thing. So I'm definitely in favor of instancing, but only in very specific events, and you can actually bring PvP into this, and this might be kind of a pain, but what if while the boss room is active, no one else can go in? So you would actually have to have people guarding the entrance of the boss. That way, if your group wiped, another group couldn't come in and steal the kill from you.
It could be like almost like SAO.
You got it. I tried to do it without it, but the boss rooms were locked in there. But it couldn't be like you can respawn inside. You respawn somewhere else. You have to make your way back through the dungeon to try again. And another team could have locked the instance in, or you have to have PvP players to protect your people coming back in for multiple raid attempts.
What if it's like Albion Online, where the dungeon has 2 entrances and only one group can go in each?
Yeah,
I like that.
That's neat too.
And then it's Rumble in the dungeon.
Yeah, like that is something that's, if there's multiple entrances, you can have groups, and once one group enters an entryway, that door closes so you can go in. So
I've really enjoyed PvP dungeons like that in past games.
What you could also have happen. Oh yeah, what you could also have happen is like large guilds basically hold down a dungeon and say you have to pay us a fee to get in. Right. Like they could be like, what, we're going to kill all you guys if you try to pass us. Otherwise, pay us a bounty. Basically,
I mean that's player agency. But like you said, PvP dungeons, Atropos, Dark Age of Camelot with Darkness Falls. Ways to lock it to a certain realm, but people could still be in it. Imperial City in ESO is one of my favorites, because even though like when I was doing group events and stuff, we were doing it mostly for the PvE aspect. We'd go in, but there was always that added danger of, let's hope there's no one else in the room. So that's why I kind of like, even if you instance the boss room, that doesn't instance the entire way up to the boss. Well,
yeah, totally agree.
Yeah. All right.
I feel like
Go ahead. No. Finish your
I was just gonna nostalgia trip for a second and say I thought Tomb of the Vulture Lord in Warhammer Online was actually one of the most underappreciated dungeons in MMOs, because the game was already like well on its decline path by that point. But that was a really great raid / PvP dungeon. Really fun.
No, I'm glad you brought up Warhammer, because they were one of those where they kind of had a weird mix where some dungeons literally were just the instance you go in and do this, but then you have like the Vulture Lord, which was a PvP instance as well, where you could, while making your way through, get ganked by other people, and that does add that extra level of awareness. And how many times have we all run dungeons in theme park MMOs where it becomes I'm doing this just for my daily, and you kind of like zone out at the time, like okay, I know I go around this corner, the boss is here, but when it could be I go around this corner and another group is there who are going to kill me, people tend to be more in the moment. They focus more when there is that unknown threat of players, which can't be scripted.
Right. I mean, you could also do something very similar along that lines, like the Mirror Knight from Dark Souls 2, where basically people can like summon in and help the boss fight you guys. Like that would be pretty epic. I think it would add some extra dynamics, like you were saying. You don't really know what to expect then.
Yeah, cool. All right, guys, I think that kind of reaches the end of this episode. So it's time for shout-outs. Where are we going to be? Let's go ahead and start at the bottom, because I think last week we started at the top. So Telchar, what about you, sir?
I'm the guild leader of the Sons of the Seven. We're a PBX, political and economic focused guild that's exclusive to Ashes of Creation. We've got a core group of players that's from the older kind of glory days of MMOs, and we're trying to make a home in Ashes and focus on the better side of gaming. But you can check us out on our website, sonsoftheseven.shifter.com, or send me a message on Discord. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Absolutely. Awesome. And Sinbad.
All right, I'm one of the leaders of Vengeance. We're a PBX guild focused on hardcore gameplay. We're surrounding basically Ashes Creation. That's the game we're going to be playing mostly once it launches. We're basically going to be dominating our chosen server. So we're going to be looking to be one of the absolute best guilds on that server. We're going to be working hard every single day to make that happen. And we already have, I think at this point, over about 40 members that are completely active in our Discord. So you can find us on our Discord or at our website.
Cool. I know. I keep bringing you guys on, and it's funny to watch week after week as your shout-outs get more and more refined. I love it because it's like, okay, we're preparing this. We're coming on and doing that. It's awesome. Atropos.
Time for me to totally wing it just to, like, destroy your point.
I know. Praise these guys. Atropos is going to bring the bar right back down.
Bring it right back down. Yeah, so you can find me on Ashen Foundry or our ESO site, Tamriel Foundry. The Ashen Foundry is the new sister site for Tamriel Foundry, and it's been up just for a couple months, but we've already got a really nice community here, good discussion. We would love to see you guys show up, read our articles, register, join the discussion. If you want to hear more about my hands-on experiences at PAX, you can read my sort of in-depth review on Ashen Foundry, and definitely check back later this week for some swag giveaway of stuff that we got at the booth.
I definitely, before I get to Isarii, shout out again to Atropos, because like I said, his web skills are amazing. I really got to give it to him. I know I helped out very early, and when I helped out, I mean I literally sat there and said, when he said log in, I logged in. He did all the work. I didn't do anything.
You found a bug?
Huh?
You found a bug.
I did find. Okay.
Yeah.
I found a bug. Woo! But
number one QA tester NA.
It's his stuff is always fantastic. I know I met him through Tamriel Foundry, and the amount of work and effort they put into it is amazing. They're trying to cultivate that great community there. Not doors, not squeaky doors.
Yeah, that squeaky door.
You might want to get some WD. He's good.
Yeah.
He's good at.
I'm on it. It's in my Amazon cart.
Okay, there you go. So he's good at websites, not so good at spraying WD-40 on doors.
Yeah.
Definitely check it out. Tamriel Foundry became far and above the place to go for ESO content. Like, the official forums were trash. Like, I mean, just because it was awful, but it's great. They have an awesome community, and I definitely encourage everyone to check out Ashen Foundry. It's beautiful. So
thank you, sir. Thank you.
All right, Isarii.
Hello.
How are you?
I am also at ashenfoundry.com and also of tamrielfoundry.com for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, you can find everything that I do either on Twitter at twitter.com/EthanMcPhee. I tweet game stuff and pictures of burgers and my corgi sometimes. I write for MMOgames.com, MMORPG.com, Gamesbase.com. I stream on Twitch, Mixer, and YouTube, all at /Isarii. The video stuff, I guess I'm dicking around with more and more and getting somewhat good at it, maybe. So youtube.com/C/Isarii is the main place for that. Yep, I think that's all my self-promotion.
There you go. All right.
Sounds right.
Of course, cool. You can check the link or the podcast description both on our website, dungeoncrawlernetwork.com, but if you're listening to us on YouTube, there will be links in the description. If you're listening to us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, open up the actual podcast episode, expand the description, and you'll be able to actually find links to all of this stuff, because I keep all links for all my guests so that we can be there. You can follow me, Aggelos, AGGELOS_WF on the Twitters. You can follow this podcast at Ashes Podcast on Twitter. Of course, you can check out everything we do, dungeoncrawlernetwork.com. All of our social media links there, but if you want me to say it, it's youtube.com, facebook.com, twitch.tv, patreon.com/dungeoncrawlernetwork. Still trying to figure out the best way to actually add all that into one sentence. So, I mean, it is what it is. Of course, I mean, in episode 20, DCN is going to have a guild for Ashes of Creation. We've actually already had a few guild applications put in, even though I didn't announce it. And I was a little surprised. They caught me with my proverbial tech pants down because I didn't have it ready. I thought it was hidden, but apparently it wasn't. So keep that in mind. Join our Discord. I'm not going to make anyone sign up any apps yet because we're not done with it, and I don't want to actually make people apply and then have to wipe the database again. So don't worry about that. But definitely check out our Discord. You can go to our website. There's a Discord link. Join our community. You actually probably get to meet... Actually, every single one of these guys is in our DCN community, so you can talk to them from there if you don't follow them outside. So, awesome group of people. I love our DCN community. They're the best people in the world. I might be biased on that, but who cares? All right, guys. We hope you enjoyed this episode of From the Ashes. We will be back next week with yet more Ashes of Creation fun. We will be here to help make MMOs great again. And we hope to see you in Ashes of Creation. See you later, everybody.